Middle Ages, animals weren't just nature in the background. They were food, work, and sometimes even danger. Horses were for hauling carts and carried riders. Oxen would drag plows. Dogs, of course, guarded homes and helped hunt. Cats kept grain stores safer by chasing the mice away. Even the few creatures people feared like wolves, boars, and snakes showed up in stories as warnings about the wild world beyond the fields. And because most people lived close to animals, they also thought with animals. Each different animal has its symbolism, where a lion could mean courage, a lamb could mean innocence, a fox could mean trickery. Medieval artists packed these ideas into church carvings and especially manuscripts, where the margins became a playground for symbols. In a lot of medieval manuscripts, rabbits and hares show up as cute little background animals. They hop around vines, they nibble leaves, they hide in the borders like harmless decoration. But sometimes, out of nowhere, these same bunnies turn into stone-cold killers. They shoot people with arrows. They drag hunters to court. They carry swords. They even fight dogs like tiny knights. So today we're diving into the weirdest question ever. Why did medieval artists keep drawing killer rabbits? And what were these drawings really saying? First, it helps to understand what medieval margins were for. A manuscript page usually has the main text in the center and the borders around it. Those borders could be decorated with little scenes called marginalia or drolleries, small drawings that can be funny, strange, or even chaotic. They don't always match the main text in a simple way. Sometimes they echo it. Sometimes they tease it. Sometimes they flip it upside down. And medieval artists love that kind of flip. Some pages are basically saying, the world is not always what it looks like. That brings us to the big idea behind killer rabbits. The world turned upside down. In real life, rabbits are prey. Hunters chase them. Dogs chase them. People trap them. So when a medieval artist draws a rabbit hunting a human, it's a joke built on reversal. It's the impossible happening on purpose. It's like a cartoon where the mouse finally beats the cat, except the medieval version is way darker. One of the earliest examples the British Library points to comes from a manuscript called the Arnstein Passional, made around the 1170s at Arnstein Abbey in Germany. In this image, two rabbits use a big decorated letter T like a gallows. They hang a human hunter from it, where you can tell he's a hunter because he's wearing a hunting horn. The rabbits don't exactly look sad. They look like they're jeering at him, like, that's what you get. That's not just a random gag, it's revenge art. Because hunting wasn't just getting food. In the Middle Ages, hunting could be a symbol of power. Rich people hunted for sport. Lords hunted on land they controlled, and rabbits and hares were part of that world. So when rabbits punish a hunter in the margin, it can feel like a little fantasy about justice, like the weak finally getting payback. And medieval artists didn't stop there. The most famous killer rabbit storybook is the Smithfield Decretals, decorated in London in the 1340s. This manuscript has scenes that run across pages like a medieval comic strip, and in one sequence, a group of giant muscular rabbits go after a hunter in steps. First, a rabbit archer shoots him in the back. Then they tie him up. They drag him to a rabbit judge like it's a real courtroom. They even give a guilty verdict. And finally, they haul him away and behead him. That is a full revenge movie starring rabbits. And it gets even better because the rabbits don't stop at the hunter. After that, they go after his hound, the dog that's used to chase rabbits. In another long sequence, the rabbits shoot the dog, capture it, and bring it to court before hanging it. It's basically like the rabbits feeling they need revenge after being hunted. So why would people spend time drawing this? Because medieval margins are one of the few places where artists could be playful in a world that was often strict. Think about it. Many manuscripts were religious or legal. The text had rules. The page layout had rules. The church had rules. But the margins were like a pressure valve, a place for humor, a place for strange ideas, a place to show fear, jokes, and everyday feelings without changing the official message in the center. And medieval people did have humor, dark humor, especially. They lived with disease, war, and sudden death. They saw animals slaughtered all the time, so their idea of a funny scene could be brutal in a way that shocks us today. Also, these rabbits are not always just rabbits. Sometimes they act like knights. Sometimes they act like soldiers. There's also times where they act like judges. That mainly matters because it turns the rabbit into a mirror of people. Look at the breviary of Renaud de Bar made in Metz, France. For example, around 1302 to 1303. In the margins, rabbits fight dogs with swords and shields like proper warriors. In one scene, it's so ridiculous that it's perfect, and a rabbit rides on a snail like it's a warhorse. Meanwhile, the dog opponent rides on the back of another rabbit who looks confused about why he's even there. That's not only comedy, that's medieval imagination running free, mixing animal behavior, night culture, and pure nonsense into one scene. And this is where killer rabbits start to connect to something bigger. Medieval margins often show role reversal stories such as animals acting like humans, peasants acting like kings, and fools acting like wise people. It's not always a political protest, but it is a reminder that medieval people understood power, fear, and unfairness, and they liked seeing power flipped, even for a second. There's another layer too, where rabbits and hares had a big place in medieval symbolism. People watched rabbits closely, and they saw how fast they multiply. They noticed how they hide underground. So rabbits could stand for fertility, speed, nervousness, and wild nature. And medieval writers sometimes believed strange things about hares, like the idea that they could change sex, which shows up in medieval and ancient sources. That belief isn't true, but it's part of what people thought back then, and it helped make hares feel mysterious. So when a medieval artist draws a rabbit acting like a warrior, it can feel like they're playing with that weird reputation, turning a small, nervous creature into a terrifying force. And the fact that rabbits are small makes the joke sharper. A lion killing a man isn't funny. That's normal danger. But a rabbit killing a man is funny because it's wrong. It breaks the rules of nature. Now let's talk about one of the best parts: rabbits versus knights. In the Gorliston Psalter made in East Anglia, England, between about 1310 and 1324, there's an image where a knight swings a sword at a rabbit that rears up like it's ready to fight back. It's one of those scenes where you can almost hear the boss music starting. And if you've ever seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail, you already know why the modern internet loves this stuff. That movie made the killer bunny famous with the Beast of Caerbannog. But Monty Python didn't invent the idea, because medieval artists were doing it hundreds of years earlier. So, what did medieval viewers think when they saw these scenes? Well, we can't climb into their heads perfectly, but we can make smart guesses. Some of it is simple entertainment. Medieval books were expensive, but they were also handled and read. People spent time with them. A funny margin couldn't only make you look twice, but it could keep you awake while making the owner smile. Some of it might be inside jokes. Manuscripts were often made in workshops. Artists learned patterns and they reused ideas. Certain popular margin themes spread, like the famous knight fighting a snail. Rabbits fighting humans seems to belong to that same family of weird jokes that traveled from book to book. And some of it might be moral. Not moral like a children's lesson, but moral like, don't be arrogant. Essentially, don't act like you own the world. If a hunter thinks he controls life and death, the margin might quietly whisper, sure, until suddenly the rabbits decide you don't. Even the courtroom scenes in the Smithfield decretals feel like they're mocking human systems, with a rabbit judge, a rabbit trial, and even a rabbit executioner. It's funny, but it also looks like a parody of real justice. It's like the artist is playing with the idea that courts can be scary and punishment can be harsh. And then there's the dog angle. In real hunting life, dogs were tools of the hunt, so when rabbits punish the hound, it feels like revenge against the entire hunting machine, not just one guy. The best part is how seriously the rabbits take it. They aren't drawn as silly blobs, they're drawn like disciplined soldiers, almost like they have a plan, like they've been waiting for this moment. That's why these images still hit today, because they feel like modern humor. Cute things becomes terrifying and roles reverse. The weak also get revenge where the story escalates way too far. It's medieval dark comedy that still works on social media. But here's where it gets real. Killer rabbits also remind us that medieval art wasn't only stiff and serious. People sometimes imagine the Middle Ages as gray, joyless, and gloomy. Yet here we have proof, right on the page, that medieval artists could be playful, creative, and even ridiculous. They could paint saints with gold halos and then draw a bunny execution scene 2 inches away. So the next time you see a medieval manuscript, don't only look at the main image. Look at the corners, the edges, and the little drawings people ignore, because that's where the medieval mind sometimes shows itself most clearly. In the center of the page, they wrote law and prayer, but in the margins, rabbits took revenge. And honestly, after everything humans have done to rabbits for centuries, you can almost see why the medieval artists thought bunnies might want to strike back.